Since ancient times, scientists have documented cases of hydrophobia in animals, a condition that drives them to panic at the mere sight of water. If left untreated within 48 hours, there is no cure. Late one night in Hawaii, veterinarian Doug checks in on a chimpanzee named Ben, who appears quite ill. Doug prepares a syringe for Ben, but when he turns back around, the chimpanzee has vanished. He hears grunting coming from inside the kennel, so he moves in for a closer look. When Doug attempts to offer Ben a teddy bear, the chimpanzee instead seizes his wrist and yanks him inside, violently tearing the skin from Ben's face. All of this began 36 hours earlier. College student Lucy is returning to her family home in Hawaii. As she boards the plane, she collides with Drew and drops her teddy bear. He tries to make amends by doing funny voices with the bear, but it lands as awkward rather than charming. Lucy then phones her sister Erin, who is reluctant to speak. After the call ends, Lucy tells her best friend Kate that Erin is still resentful about her long absence, but Kate urges her not to feel guilty given everything their family has endured. Lucy is caught off guard when Hannah joins them on the flight, and Kate admits she invited her to spend the summer with them. Drew's friend, Brad, helps Hannah stow her luggage as an excuse to flirt and swap numbers. Upon arriving in Hawaii, Kate's brother Nick picks the girls up. They drive to Lucy's house and find her deaf father Adam in the middle of a business call. He immediately ends the call when he spots Lucy and rushes over to embrace her. He warmly welcomes everyone else into the home. Adam chats with Nick and asks about his girlfriend, and Nick tells him they broke up. Knowing Lucy has feelings for him, Adam suggests this is her opportunity to act on them, but she brushes it off. Adam then admits he has to leave for work but promises to return in a few days. He tries to apologize, but Lucy tells him they're used to it. Next, Lucy looks in on Erin, who is still bitter about her sister's years-long absence. To tune her out, Erin uses a soundboard to say she's busy. Lucy uses the same soundboard to apologize, and Erin tells her she's been lonely. When Lucy produces the teddy bear, a hand reaches out to take it. It turns out Ben is the family's pet. The professor was the girl's mother, so they kept Ben after she passed away. Lucy hugs him, and Ben uses the soundboard to express that he missed her. Lucy then introduces Ben to her friends, and Hannah is initially frightened. She laughs, however, when Ben shakes her hand. Later that night, Hannah can't sleep and wanders through the house. Nick finds her studying family photos, and when she asks about Lucy's mom, he explains that she died of cancer. She was a linguistics professor dedicated to enabling communication between humans and chimps. Nick moves closer and flirts with Hannah, offering her a cigarette for the jet lag. Hannah continues exploring and discovers an outdoor staircase leading to a stunning pool. Just then, Ben appears beside her, staring fixedly at the water while grunting and drooling, as though entranced. He snaps out of it when Hannah calls his name and gently pats her hand. Without warning, Ben forcefully grabs her wrist, and Hannah screams in pain as he loses control. Hannah turns to find that Adam has used a whistle to settle Ben down. Adam types on his phone to communicate with her, explaining that Ben behaves strangely around unfamiliar people. Adam then leads Ben to his enclosure and is startled to discover a dead mongoose on the ground. He asks Ben whether he's been fighting with the neighbors again, but Ben denies it. On closer inspection, Adam sees that the mongoose bit Ben, so he decides to keep him confined to the enclosure for the time being. The following morning, Adam shows his daughters the mongoose's body and describes the bite. He plans to send the body off for testing as a precaution and will call Doug to arrange shots for Ben, instructing the girls to keep him in the enclosure until further notice. Adam promises they will enjoy time together once he returns from his business trip. The rest of the day, the group relaxes by the pool. In the evening, they take a break to unwind, and Lucy notices Hannah and Nick exchanging flirtatious glances. Growing jealous, Lucy suggests Hannah call Brad, hoping to expose her. Hannah thinks it's a wonderful idea and dares Lucy to make the call herself. Since Nick also dares her, Lucy dials the number and leaves a voicemail. Shortly after, the phone rings and Lucy answers without checking the screen, opening with a flirtatious remark. To her embarrassment, the caller turns out to be Nick's mom, who has been trying to reach him because his phone died. All of a sudden, Kate begins vomiting, so Lucy brings her to her bedroom and gets her settled. Kate is touched by her care and reminds her of their close bond by holding up the two halves of the heart they each wear as necklaces. Meanwhile, Hannah tells Nick that Lucy is trying to impress him, but Nick says he thinks of Lucy as a sister. When Lucy returns, she walks in on them kissing. At that same moment, Doug arrives to administer the shots Adam had requested, and the attack from the opening scene takes place. Sometime later, Kate wakes up and heads to the kitchen for a glass of water. When she hears a noise, she spins around and spots the teddy bear sitting on the table. She picks it up, assuming the others are playing a prank, only for Ben to emerge from behind her. He glares at her and growls, the sound escalating into a piercing shriek, and a terrified Kate bolts from the kitchen and shuts the door behind her. Ben snarls at her through the window, so Kate cries out for help. Lucy quickly comes downstairs and Kate tells her something is wrong with Ben. They go into the kitchen together, but Ben is nowhere to be found. On the floor, they discover the teddy bear soaked in blood. Without warning, they hear screaming and race to the pool. Ben is out of control and Nick is struggling to hold him back. When Lucy calls Ben's name, he backs off but refuses to respond to her. Nick spots rope in the pool storage box and carefully edges around Ben to reach it, but Ben keeps growling at him. Lucy distracts the chimpanzee so Nick can access the box, but while searching for the rope, he accidentally knocks over a toy. The toy begins playing an irritating tune and Ben erupts again, so Nick hurls it over the cliff to quiet him down. Lucy speaks calmly to Ben until she is able to hold him and gently slips the lasso over him. When Ben realizes what the rope means, he explodes again and lunges at Nick, but the rope holds him back just enough so that he can only knock him to the ground. Aaron appears and says they need to contact Adam or the vet, so Kate uses her phone to call Doug. Hannah suggests Ben needs to be put down and Lucy snaps at her, sparking an argument. Everyone is distracted and fails to notice Ben gnawing through the rope. The group goes silent when they hear Doug's phone ringing inside the enclosure and realizes that if he isn't answering, he must be dead. At that instant, Ben breaks free and tackles Aaron, sinking his teeth into her leg. Nick grabs Ben from behind and strains with all his strength to pull him away. When Hannah attempts to flee, Ben immediately cuts off the exit. Nick remembers that Ben cannot swim, so everyone dives into the pool. Ben removes the rope and growls at them from the edge, unable to follow. Together, the group keeps Aaron afloat and uses Nick's shirt as a tourniquet. They suspect Ben may have rabies, which means Aaron urgently needs hospital care. However, they are trapped, with Ben on one side of the pool and a cliff on the other. They shout for help, but the house is surrounded by woods and no one can hear them. Suddenly, Ben leaps and lands on the opposite edge of the pool. Nick swims toward him and shoves him off the cliff. Ben manages to cling to the edge, however, and hauls himself back up to seize Nick, pulling him until he plunges over. Nick's head strikes the rocks below and he dies instantly. Ben then perches on the pool's edge and laughs, which enrages Kate. She wants to go after him, but Hannah restrains her. Ben then leaps once more to block the exit and settles down to wait. Worried about her sister, Lucy decides to climb out of the pool and tries to retrieve a pool float. Ben watches her but makes no move. Lucy advances carefully and manages to get the float into the water. She then spots a phone on the ground and reaches for it, but it rings at that moment and Ben begins spiraling. To protect her friend, Kate climbs out of the pool and shouts to draw Ben's attention. When he charges at her, she jumps back into the pool. The distraction gives Lucy just enough time to snatch the phone and leap back into the pool before Ben can reach her. The girls try to dial 911, but the cracked screen prevents them from using the keypad. They manage to navigate to the recent calls menu and reach Brad and Drew, begging for help. The boys, however, assume the girls want company for a party and treat the whole thing as a joke. Suddenly, Ben seizes Hannah by the hair, and the girls are horrified to see he has climbed above the pool and is hanging from the lights. Hannah fights desperately to break free. In the commotion, the phone slips into the water and stops working. Meanwhile, Adam is signing copies of his book at an author event. He then receives a text informing him that the dead mongoose tested positive for rabies. Adam finds this baffling, since rabies does not exist in Hawaii. A scientist assures him the tests will be rerun to rule out contamination. He tries to reach Lucy, but naturally she doesn't answer. In the pool, the girls have drifted off to sleep on the float. A ringing phone jolts them awake, and they notice Ben is nowhere in sight. Lucy and Kate climb out of the pool and move cautiously toward the house. Nick's phone is charging and Lucy reaches for it, but she accidentally steps on a remote control. The television switches on and the girls hear Ben going berserk upstairs. Realizing he's heading down, they sprint to hide in the closet. Ben enters the living room, finds no one, and begins smashing things in a rage. As he approaches the closet, Lucy quickly locks the door. Ben sniffs briefly before crossing to the TV and battering it until it shatters. The girls flinch at this and accidentally knock a few items to the floor. They press themselves behind the hanging clothes as Ben hears the noise and charges back to the closet, beginning to splinter the wood. He forces his way in and scans the space carefully, but thankfully does not spot them and moves on. After waiting a few seconds, Lucy slips out to grab Nick's phone. Without warning, she hears the soundboard announce Lucy bad and discovers Ben clinging to the ceiling. He drops onto her, causing her to lose the phone, and begins beating her. Kate seizes an oar and strikes Ben to knock him off Lucy, then both girls sprint back outside and lock the door. Ben pounds on it and reaches for the handle, so Kate grips it from the other side to hold it shut. After several more blows, Ben walks away, and Kate releases the handle. Ben then breaks to a run and crashes through the glass to get outside. Lucy races downstairs toward the pool, and Kate tries to follow, but Ben catches her by the ankle and brings her down. Hearing the screams, Lucy turns back for Kate, but it is too late. Ben is killing her by smashing her head with a rock. As Lucy tries to flee, Ben tackles her from behind. Hannah rushes to grab the lasso and loops it around Ben, then begins pulling with all her strength. Ben grips the rope to stop it from choking him and spins around to roar at Hannah, giving both girls the opening they need to jump back into the pool. The girls then haul on the rope together, trying to drag Ben into the water, but Ben grips it and pulls back until he wrests it completely from their hands. Meanwhile, Adam continues to send Lucy messages throughout a meeting. With no reply coming, he decides to leave and head home, sacrificing a potential film deal. Shortly afterward, Brad and Drew burst into the house, only to be let down by the absence of any party. They begin searching the place, unaware that Ben is watching them from outside. They decide to split up to cover more ground, and Drew makes his way to Lucy's room, where he finds her phone loaded with missed calls. Ben is standing right behind him, but when he turns around, the chimpanzee has disappeared. Drew climbs onto the bed and examines a photo of Lucy's mother with Ben, only for Ben to materialize beside him, growling. A panicked Drew looks away, but Ben swiftly repositions himself on the other side and begins closing in. Ben knocks him flat and pins him down. Drew tries to stay calm and friendly, but Ben pins his arms to stop him from moving, so Drew snaps and unleashes a stream of insults and threats. Ben forces his fingers into Drew's mouth and pulls until he rips off his lower jaw. On the balcony, Brad spots the girls in the pool and starts calling out for Drew. The girls desperately try to silence him and urge him to call 911, but Brad freezes when Drew's jawbone lands beside him. He picks it up assuming it's a prank, then drops it the moment he realizes it's real. Without warning, Ben appears nearby. With Ben occupied, Hannah hauls herself out of the pool and heads upstairs, where she sees Ben beating Brad to death with the shovel. She grabs Nick's phone and keys, sprints outside, and jumps into the first car she reaches. When she tries to start it, however, the keys won't turn. She has accidentally gotten into Drew's car instead of Nick's. As she tries to get out, she finds Ben waiting outside, drenched in blood, and frantically locks herself back in. She finally dials 911 and calls for help, only to realize she has no idea what the address is. Ben then produces Drew's keys and starts pressing the buttons to unlock the door, forcing her to relock it over and over. She sobs as she pleads with the operator to trace her call. Ben peers through the window menacingly before moving to the rear of the car, where he opens the trunk and climbs in. Hannah tries to escape the car, but Ben drags her back and proceeds to beat her to death. Several minutes go by, and Lucy realizes Hannah is not returning, so Lucy climbs out of the pool. She pauses to say goodbye to Kate, then makes her way to the balcony, where she steps on the glass and barely suppresses a cry of pain. Ben finds her anyway and is about to strike, but the sound of Adam's car pulling up outside distracts him. Adam walks into the house and taps the wall to signal his arrival. Ben begins trailing him since Adam cannot hear his screeching, but Lucy can. The moment she enters the room, Ben turns on Lucy and knocks her to the floor. Lucy tries to crawl under the couch, but Ben hauls her back and resumes hitting her. As Lucy screams in agony, then, unexpectedly, Ben grows calm and retreats. He tenderly holds Lucy's hand for a brief moment, then suddenly snaps it. In retaliation, Lucy drives her thumb into Ben's bite wound, causing him enough pain. At that moment, Erin enters the room and orders Ben to stop, so Ben pounces on her. While Lucy struggles to pull Ben off her, Adam steps into his daughter's room and discovers Drew's body. After knocking Lucy aside, Ben turns to go after Erin, so Lucy hurls a bottle at Hill's head. Ben then slams her down and forces his fingers into her mouth to begin pulling, but Adam blows the whistle at that exact moment. Ben stares at him briefly before biting down on his leg, so Adam begins striking and kicking him. So Lucy grabs a shovel and swings it at Ben repeatedly until it breaks apart. Ben seizes the opportunity to land a blow across her face, knocking her down again. Adam then grapples Ben to the floor and gets in several punches, but Ben overpowers him and pounds his skull against the ground. When Ben pauses to snarl at the girls, Adam grabs a bottle and shatters it over his head, then drives the broken end into his chest. Ben collapses, and Adam shoves him aside to embrace his daughters. Suddenly, Ben stirs and lunges at them again. Lucy spots him and throws herself in front of her family, taking the full impact. Adam seizes Lucy's hand and pulls her back just in time. Ben continues to fall and lands on the broken crate below, its jagged edges impaling him, this time for good. Adam and Erin work together to haul Lucy back up as police finally arrive on scene. Before Erin is loaded into an ambulance, Adam confesses he should never have left his daughters behind. Lucy is suddenly startled by the soundboard saying, "Bad Lucy," but it is only an officer testing the device. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you never miss videos like this one. Thanks for watching.